Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Hey, Brian Manning here. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the Garden Report as we reach Game 3 in this series with the Celtics down 2-0. Brian Barrett's here from The Ringer, and I went on your show, Brian, before the series, called it a sweep. Didn't see how the Knicks could compete in this one, and here they are up 2-0 with a chance to sweep themselves. Unreal.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because in one sense, you want to give the Knicks credit, and specifically a guy like Bridges making huge defensive plays at the end of both games. Brunson making key plays late, even though Brunson had, 17 points in the game. He hasn't been efficient in the series whatsoever. He was huge at the end of game 1. So you want to give them credit, and I thought they found something with Karl-Anthony Towns when he had the 8 straight points, and then Campaign decided to jack up a 3 for some inexplicable reason. But they found some things that have worked for them, and they deserve Josh Hart getting offensive rebounds. But to me, this is way more about the Celtics, where they have completely melted down in now back-to-back games. I have no idea what's going on in these fourth quarters whatsoever. And it feels like now, specifically with Tatum, and I think this trickles down to the rest of the team, it's in their heads. Like they almost felt like they were just trying to run out the clock. And I don't understand the stubbornness there, where I understand that, hey, if you play an 82-game season and you go by the numbers, you're going to come out based on the way the Celtics shoot in their attempts. They're going to come out with a pretty good record like we've seen. But, Bobby, this is now 7 playoff games. They've had 2 where they shot north of 40%. They have more games where they shot south of 30%. And I just don't understand why there can't be a curveball, a slider, a changeup in their arsenal rather than. And I understand all the tracking stuff. I've gone through it too, like the open threes, the wide open threes, and it's just going to change. Well, what we found out so far in this postseason, there's going to be another game like this where they, even if they come back, they tie this up at 2, there's going to be another game like this where they don't shoot well. So you're just going to live by that the entirety of the postseason?
It feels like they don't have an answer for that right now, especially with Kristaps Porzingis effectively minimized in this series, I think is the best way you can say it. And hopefully there's a resurgence there. It doesn't seem like it. There seemed to be some resignation almost to the fact that he's not going to play too much, at least in the near term, based on the illness reemerging here, whatever's going on there. And that's just another weird wrinkle of the series that's going in a concerning direction. But you're right. It's their inability to get quality 2-point shots off in this series. And I know everyone wants to see them get away from the 3 when it's not there, but they don't have any great alternative right now. You saw Al Horford trying to force his way into the paint in the fourth quarter there, and it was a disaster. You see Tatum on the final possession trying to force his way into the paint area and have no access to it whatsoever. I thought Jalen's done a good job with it at times, but it's a struggle. It's a challenge for him as well. And maybe there's some sets you can run and some ways you can creatively open the paint here. But right now, the Knicks are in this great position defensively where the Celtics aren't shooting great. They're not really even trying to penetrate. And they're just launching up in the first game, tough 3s at times. And then the second game, I thought they shifted towards shooting a bunch of tough 2s. The Knicks must just be loving because you aren't seeing them get high quality paint touches. I don't even need them to shoot a ton at the rim. Can you get there and can you move the ball out of that spot and just get things going a little bit? And the biggest problem by far when you watch the tape is that they're starting a lot of these possessions, starting them with 10 seconds left on the shot clock.
Yeah, even if you go back to the final play of the game, and if I was Mazzulla, I would have called the timeout. He keeps saying it was the same play they ran before, but the difference is at that point in time, you're in a situation where there's 12.1 seconds left in the game, and clearly your team's not executing well at all. And the one time they did execute well is when you drew up the play. So you actually drawing up the play helped them. And with 12.1 seconds left, it's indefensible that Tatum doesn't get a shot off there. I don't know what he was thinking either. He gets.
Did you want a timeout? I keep going back and forth on it.
I would have rather them take a timeout just because I saw Mazzulla set up a good play. And so who are you getting off the court? It's just Brunson, right? Like they had already got the other
already out.
Yeah, they had already got the defensive guys in there besides Brunson. And I just don't trust these guys to make the right decisions late right now. So if I'm Missoula, I would have drawn something up in that particular case. But you also, the most blame goes on Tatum to not even get a shot up, because you have to take the shot a lot earlier than that too. Because even at that point, 2.1 seconds, it looks like he's trying to get a shot, then he can't get it. So then he passes it over to Jaylen Brown. And even if Jaylen catches that, it's almost like a lob pass he threw him. You have no chance at an offensive rebound. You're down by a point. The game's not tied. Like, you shouldn't be taking a shot as time expires. You should be taking a shot going earlier than that. So the way that things had just got so out of control for the Celtics, I personally would have liked a timeout there. But the other thing is this, is we've talked about the non-timeout. Missoula's been a big topic of conversation. We've talked about the threes. But the other thing that I'd say is, where does the defense go late in these games? Right? Because they do a good job in the first half stopping the Knicks. If you look at the fourth quarter, specifically in the series, by the way, the Celtics only have 33 points. The Knicks in the fourth quarter have 55 points. They're 20 of 44, 45.5%. They're 9 of 20 from deep, 45%. They have a 127.9 offensive rating. So even if this offense completely gets discombobulated, you had to give up a 20-point lead that I get. That's going back to the third quarter. But why can't you get stops? Like, how many offensive rebounds is Josh Hart going to get in this series? Can you just locate Josh Hart at some point in time? And the other thing that I'd mention here, and I know it's not a huge topic of conversation, what was Drew doing at the end of the game? Like, I know he's made some huge plays, like the Nembhard steal last year comes to mind, but he had no chance at stealing that ball. And it wasn't like Brunson wasn't in a great position. If he's going to stop on a dime and make a shot from there, and I know he's trying to get like Drew on his back, I'm living with that. I'm not putting him on the free throw line. You think he's going to miss a free throw? No.
It's interesting too, because they didn't want to give the Horford switch that they gave at the end of that first game in overtime that allowed Brunson to get those threes. So Drew's fighting through that screen and, trying to do what he's doing there. And they're in the bonus, obviously, as well there. And I'm not going to do it again because I've done it a million times, but I don't get putting yourself in the bonus defensively with the Mitchell Robinson fouls there, especially when
What do
you
you
think
mean?
about
He was a plus 19, and you wanted to keep OG on the bench. He was a plus 19, Bobby. I don't know what you're talking about. They fouled him because they needed Mitchell Robinson off the court. That's what Missoula was worried about. What an answer that was. I don't buy it for a second. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you there. The answer aggravated me.
the answer I don't understand. The Thibodeau answer before the game when I asked him about it, like, what do you guys think of them fouling Robinson, because they did in the game previously and he went 3 of 10. And he was like, oh, we like it. It puts us in the bonus earlier. We can set our defense. There's a lot of stuff there. And then you decide if you keep him in or not. But, to me, I'm looking over at Thibodeau and he's standing there and he's got OG at the scorer's table. And they knew exactly what the Celtics were doing there. And he's like, all right, wait, they're going to foul one more time. They're going to go into the bonus here. Just stay here. We'll put you in next play. And then they do it. Horford has 4 fouls at that point too, I believe, or he got the 4th right after on the Towns put back. And then the craziest part of that to me is that on that last play of the game that we're talking about, the Tatum one where Robinson's back in there, they're trying to go at Robinson. Yeah. So like, that's a guy you're trying to target, but you want him off the floor. And then, I go back and watch the string of possessions before that. And I know Robinson got an offensive rebound right before then. That's an area he's been impacting in these games. But they got 4 great looks off before that. And White got to the free throw line on a transition breakout in between those looks. And so I don't have a problem with the looks they're getting off over that stretch. They're up 4 at the time because they corrected the Bridges play. So they're not in this desperate situation. Like, I hate to overdo it here because it didn't have a super tangible impact on the game. But to me, it just reflected Missoula head in the clouds a little bit in that crunch time situation, overthinking all these little strategies he has to try to get an advantage on the Knicks, or maybe to make his imprint on the game, or whatever he's trying to do there. And just getting distracted from the real issues at hand, which is that the pace wasn't great, that they're not getting quality looks off consistently offensively through a lot of this closing stretch there. And even like their lineups are a little jumbled too there, where you don't know, like, Pritchard's playing good, but you can't get him in. Luke's playing good, you can't get him in. You're trying to get Porzingis out there, but he's not really himself. And so there's a lot of stuff going wrong there in the fourth quarter. And to me, Robinson being on the floor wasn't even near the top of the list.
Yeah, there's a couple of things to that too. By the way, like I thought one of the mistakes they made in game 1 was that Pritchard didn't play much in the second half after he had 13 points in the first half, because he's the one
I don't know
guy
what
that
they're going to do with these lineups here.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of suggestions. First of all, like we mentioned, if they just hit their threes more consistently, yeah, that certainly will help. But I do think there has to be some element of change, not completely changing what Tatum does, but the two ways that the Celtics play offense when Tatum's on the floor is either he brings the ball up and he initiates the offense, or he sets the screen. And that has worked for them tremendously well over the past 2 years. Of course, we all know they won the championship last year, and they've been one of the best offenses in the league this year as well. But right now, he's in his own head. Like we referenced you mentioned some of the good shots they got late. You knew he was missing that corner three. He like delayed for a second before he shot it. And so I thought he had lost his confidence then. But how about like running him off something off ball, which I think will make the defense think even more if somebody else.
Do you remember that play at the end of game 1? He screened for White. He backed Bridges way down into the post and finished over him with ease. And they're down 4 at that point, so it really didn't matter. But it was a good play. It got Tatum close to the basket. It was an advantage, and it just put him in a different position to score. And you didn't see that in this game.
Yeah, even if it's just like, even if you don't want to run stuff for him completely off the ball, even if it's just like a little Iverson cut and he's coming across and he gets the ball like on the move, some sort of an advantage. And I know you can say, well, hey, they've played this way the whole year and it's worked for them. I totally understand that. But sometimes in a playoff series, when the other team, and give the Knicks credit, they've game planned really well for the Celtics. Sometimes when you're in a playoff series, you got to come up with something different, something that you can use that you haven't used as much during the season. So I do wonder if we see any of those sort of adjustments, which, by the way, Mazzulla talks after these games. I don't really expect him to make any adjustments. Like even the day before, like the in-between day, he's talking about their threes. Oh, they hit 50% of their wide open threes or whatever he was talking about. So I don't see him making many adjustments. The one guy that I'm interested in, because I know Mazzulla was talking about Porzingis today, and hopefully the 2 days in between can help. Horford's not hitting any shots at all. So the one way I think they can get, and I know this is going to sound crazy to suggest, I'd like to see more Pritchard just because he pushes the pace. But the other guy I'd actually like to see more of is Kornet. There's 2 reasons for that. He's really good on the glass. And secondarily, because Tatum's in his own head, when Kornet's on the floor, Tatum thinks significantly less. Because if it's Al setting the screen, he's probably going to pick and pop. If it's Porzingis, most likely going to pick and pop, but there's also a chance he could roll. If it's Derek
Should they
White,
start Kornet next game, maybe?
I'd contemplate it based on the way that Horford has looked in this series too. Just because, like, Bobby, every time he's legitimately one of the best screeners in the league. Like, if you look at the per 100 screen assists, he's way up there. And you can set those screens higher. So Tatum, like, I think, and I know he wasn't on the floor for this, but I think about that play where they set up the dunk for Tatum. He's coming with a head of steam and Al's setting a back screen, right? So if you, first of all, start your possessions earlier, please, especially in the third quarter and the fourth quarter.
The easiest difference they can make, yeah.
I don't understand why it takes them so long. It's almost like, again, a math thing. They're playing down the clock. Oh, we're going to limit their possessions doing it this way.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Kornet's setting a screen for Tatum. Tatum always has to get downhill. Like, he has to go to the basket in that manner because Kornet has to roll as well. And even if you blitz him, right, Kornet's done a pretty good job this year on the short roll as a playmaker. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just I'm a bigger fan, and I know you're a huge Kornet fan, but I'm a bigger Kornet fan than most. I just think it could help Tatum.
I wrote going into the series that he's the biggest difference over last year by far. Like the impact he's had, the minutes he's played with Tatum, all that stuff. You didn't have that last year. And the fact that you're minimizing that for yourself just because you want to get into a tighter postseason rotation here, I don't think is helping you. The Pritchard stuff's tougher. I don't know how you get him in the games late. Maybe you play him a longer stretch if White doesn't have it or something like that. Maybe even look at going without a center for a minute there, just to try to spread stuff out and speed it up a little bit. But the challenge for me in making a drastic change is the fact that you're up 20 in both of these games. So you're doing stuff that put you in that position to get there. And I get not wanting to get crazy with what you're doing later, but just because the lead's dwindling a little bit, it's just making shots and speeding it up. I think those are the two things there. Like, I think it could be as simple as that. In a game that you lose by 1, in a game that you lose by 3, a 3 or 2 going down could make all the difference here. So that's why I try not to panic in this position. But you're down 2-0, and I do want to get to the Tatum stuff here because he's been really bad so far, coming out of a great series against Orlando. And I think it is the story of this series right now is his struggles. So we'll get to that in a second here. I do want to tell the people about Prize Picks. Great time of year to go over to Prize Picks. All the stars are rolling right now. You got Denver playing right now, and Jokic is a guy that you want on your Prize Picks team every night, I would say. I'm sure the numbers, the points, rebounds, assists are astronomical for him. But, when he's putting up 40 and 20, can't go wrong with that. So, I'm taking Jokic every night. Brunson, going back to MSG, the numbers haven't been amazing. So I think there's a chance he could have a breakout here. And then, how do you feel about Tatum? There's a big Tatum game coming in game 3 or game 4. He's played well in MSG. All those possibilities and more are available over on Prize Picks, along with baseball, hockey playoffs going on right now. So head over there and check out all the possibilities. You can win up to 2,000 times your cash today by just picking more or less on 2 player stats projections. It's points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick. It's all available over there on Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching sports. So join millions of users and sign up today. Taco Tuesday, that's always going on. Flex Friday, that's tomorrow. Make sure you opt in and check the checkbox in your lineup builder to be eligible for the protected play. Choose squares from any game on the board, and if your lineup does not win, you get your net losses back in promo funds up to your promo limit as soon as the lineup settles. So check that out tomorrow over there. The basketball playoffs are here. Action's heating up on Prize Picks. Again, the best place to win cash on all your favorite sports. Download the app today and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with code CLNS. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with code CLNS. Prize Picks, run your game. So Tatum right now, it's stunning to watch. Given what we watched last series, I thought this was his best matchup during the regular season. Able to score with ease, able to get threes off with ease. So the fact that he is struggling to this degree right now blows my mind more than anything else about this series. And doesn't make a ton of sense to me. His approach with the leads, I think, is a bigger factor than any else and why they've dwindled them and why they've squandered them, rather. I just don't know what to say. And he's had, to your point earlier, Brian, some massive defensive mistakes too, getting lost off the ball. He's the guy covering Hart late, and he's not even trying to get out on him. I know you want to play off that guy a little bit, but he's just standing in the paint watching him as Hart's doing a lot of the stuff he's doing. OG is our commenter here, is locking him up in game 2. They've switched coverages, and he's struggling to recognize them. And then with a chance to win the game last night, he just dribbles into nowhere and completely loses the ball. So he's lost right now. I have confidence in him turning around because we saw the Philly series. We saw the Milwaukee series in the past. Miami, there's a million examples you can point to of him specifically turning it around. Obviously, the Miami series, he gets hurt. So we'll never know what would happen there. But this is not pretty right now, and I'm really struggling to understand why it's that way.
Yeah, I got to give the Knicks credit defensively because I didn't expect them to come up with a game plan that would confuse the Celtics. I thought if the Knicks had any chance in the series, they're going to have to score with the Celtics, and that hasn't been the case. I think it was so.
But this is what we expected going into the year from them with OG and Bridges, right?
Yeah, like the whole idea of having those 3 wings. What was it? Wingstop? Is that their nickname? Wingstop?
Yeah.
So they're finally living up to that, right? So I think there's a couple of elements here. First of all, the Magic series, it was hard, but it was simple, right? They're going to switch and just go beat your guy one-on-one, and there's going to be no help at the basket. So Tatum was unreal, right? 3 consecutive 35-point games, but you knew exactly
consistent,
Yeah, it was the whole time they were going to do the same thing. I think what the Knicks have done a good job with is in game 1, right away they're switching Towns on him. Towns gets in foul trouble. They stop doing that for a little bit. They'll still switch at times, but at other times, I think even when the Celtics get OG off Tatum, those wings do a really good job of like almost confusing Tatum by, all right, once he starts his drive, it's almost like the Warriors back in the day in 2022. They're going to help. And then the reads become more difficult for Tatum than they were against Orlando when it was basically, hey, just get downhill. But I'm trying to comprehend his struggles here because it's 28.6% from the field, 25% from deep on the series. And I thought after the Magic series, Sure, there's going to be games that he struggles to shoot. Tatum's not an elite shooter by the numbers. Like, that could happen. But for him to be struggling with his confidence again, where that's what it feels like to me. And I referenced the corner three earlier. That's where I felt like, oh, he's not comfortable. Dribbling
That
out
shot
of the
goes
paint.
in, they win.
Yeah. And Jalen had one too, where if he knocks it down, they win. But it just feels like to me, he's in his head. And I go back to this whole thing last year in the finals, right? And really throughout the playoff run, where he was struggling so much shooting the ball. We heard about the wrist, but then we heard after the season, or that wasn't the wrist that year. But anyway, we heard that essentially, hey, something was wrong with the way that he was shooting, right? And Drew Hanlon was going to fix it in the offseason. Then he comes back, it's like, oh, his elbow's high or whatever it is. I can't remember an elite scorer that so often we've heard about him tinkering his form. It just feels like he overthinks everything. And now the shooting has sort of impacted other elements to his game where he missed layups early. He missed layups, like opportunities at the hoop. One of them, he's looking for a call from the ref. It's like, dude, just go up and finish that, because he's been so good finishing in that area this season. And it's not even like, besides, I guess, Mitchell Robinson, but he wasn't out there at that point. They don't have rim protectors. Like, they really don't. That's not what Towns thrives in. So the whole thing to me is just, it's a confidence issue. And I think now, unfortunately, this narrative is going to come up if he doesn't find a way to get the Celtics back in the series. And he's going to have to be the one to do it.
Yeah, and he's going to be on the ball. They really don't have other guys that they can defer to there. I know they can go to Brown for stretches, but they're going to run it through him. And like, I don't think it's going to be White. I don't think it's going to be Holiday. I don't think it's going to be Pritchard. As much as you'd like to see those guys sprinkled in there for some sets, they just haven't done it. And there's a rigidness to this team right now that's really hard to understand when it comes to making the game easier for him, when it comes to the shot selection for him. I know it goes the other way in this game here, but generally, I do think we have to have a conversation about that shot, especially in the playoffs. And it blows my mind here. You know, my buddy Eric Weiss, I think, sent this over to me, the shooting in the playoffs now for his career. 119 games, 34% from three. I guess it's okay, but you think of this guy, you wouldn't guess it's 34% for his career in the playoffs. Like, it's way lower than you would have expected, I think, or what anyone would have guessed. Coming into this year, certainly last year. 28 last year, 32 this season so far, this postseason, 32 on that 2023 run, and he's shooting 7-8 a game. So they have to find ways to just get him closer to the basket. And I don't want him to give up the three, because I get all the benefits of like threatening the defense and, stretching it out and all that stuff that they've benefited from going back years now. But there's too many. You go back and watch these games. There's too many that just don't serve any purpose. And they bailouts. They have no chance. They're too late in the clock because he's not doing other stuff. Like every three, I think, I'm not just looking at the total of the threes at the end of this game. For me, it's looking at each individual one and just being like, all right, that was good. Wide open. You missed it. It's a rhythm shot. What else are you going to do there? And then the ones often from Tatum where you're like, what was that? Like, why are you taking that? And there's too many of those from him.
Way too many of them. It's almost as if he lets the defense off the hook. And we've talked about it before. Like, hey, if he has the big on him, it makes sense because you can go and crash and get an offensive rebound. And that's been a point that the Celtics have stressed all season long. But you mentioned those career numbers. They just don't add up for similar guys at his position. Like, I think of the other two great wings sort of from this era, non-LeBron department, just because LeBron's kind of his own specimen with the way that he plays. Durant's 47.7% from the floor. Kawhi's 51.3% from the floor. These guys, and Durant's three-point numbers aren't great, but they're better than Tatum's. Kawhi's are. I mean, Kawhi's three-point numbers, 39.9%. And I know Kawhi just lost, but I'm talking about prime Kawhi with the Raptors. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know another guy. And look, I know Anthony Edwards, as we're recording, hasn't played the game 2 yet, but he's been struggling shooting the ball as well. It just feels like he gets in these stretches where I don't know if it's, I don't think it's, look, it's not the moment's too big for him. You don't go into Milwaukee and score 46 against Giannis to save your season. It's not the moment. It's just, it feels like once he starts missing a few, it almost becomes a confidence issue individually with his shot. That's how I feel. I don't think it's something like he's not up for the moment, because I mean, you don't do what he's done so far in his career without being up for the moment. I just don't get, I guess my biggest question is, I don't know why he hasn't been a more consistent shooter throughout his career based on like when he was coming
He
out of
takes
Duke.
tough shots.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah, and it's great because when they're going in, it's game over. And, they're running up 20, 30-point leads, and, there's no way the opponent can compete with you. But when you're playing that game, and he plays that game more often than not, it's going to go in the other direction at times. And this whole team's suffering from it right now. And you're in such a tough spot here because I think you said it earlier. You're down 2-0. You're hoping it goes the other way. They're 25 for 100 from three as a team. But one game goes the other way for the Knicks, who haven't shot great in this series either. And now you're down 3-0 or 3-1 or even
Right.
3-2 at that point, and you're still a game from getting eliminated. There's injuries that could come into play here. That is the last thing I want to hit on before we wrap this up here is that injury aspect. The Porzingis illness, the Hauser injury, which I think is a big deal, given that no one can step into that spot and play some minutes there. They're just tightening things up and, leaning on the Horfords, Tatums, and Browns even more. I have confidence in the Celtics turning this around because we've seen them do it before. I'm not worried about the MSG road environment. Like they're fine there. Like that's not going to be a intimidation factor for them or whatever you want to talk about. I think they've been better on the road this year, even obviously. I'm worried about Porzingis kind of playing, kind of not. That in between thing I think kills you, and it killed them in this game. I don't know if this is going to get better. I felt like there was some optimism at practice, the 2 days off, and then, the Saturday afternoon game that he'll be better in a better place then. So it makes me feel a tiny bit better. I don't feel great about Hauser, but that's not a swing factor in this series, or it shouldn't be. But the both of them combined, if they can't play, or if Porzingis is playing 13 minutes in a game like this, and that's what it's going to be from this point out, that's where I actually don't feel great about them winning this series. I don't think you can push Horford to the level you have for the rest of what's going to be a 6-7 game series at this point. I don't think they have wing depth, so it's going to be a lot more in Tatum and Brown.
Yeah.
This is where I get stuck. I don't know what to expect from Porzingis and Hauser the rest of the way.
Yeah, you think about the comeback they had against Miami. They were healthy, right? When they came back, and then eventually Tatum turned his ankle in game 7. But specifically with Porzingis, I just feel horrible for the guy because he missed last year in the postseason with this rare injury, or the majority of the postseason with the injury. Then he gets another rare injury or the first injury wasn't rare, but you get the point. It's like he essentially missed the majority of the postseason. So you couldn't really depend on him at all. Game 1, when he came in against the Mavericks, I'm like, really? After he missed all this time, he's unreal. Then he gets injured again. This postseason, and you go back to the Magic series, game 2, he was bad in that series. We're finding out now it's more about health than anything else. But he had the game 2, the game where he got the gash. I'm like, oh, like Porzingis looks pretty good. Like they used him early, the game that Tatum wasn't in there, and he
ton of free throws that night.
Yeah, he was getting to the free throw line. I'm like, all right, this is good. But now unfortunately, he's been dealing with this virus forever, it seems like. I don't know how you can depend on him. With Jalen, I feel like it's flashes, right? Like, I thought he was awesome in the second quarter, or really the first half in general, I should say, where it's the second quarter of game 1, the first half of this game where he's driving, he's getting into the paint.
I keep forgetting about him too in the knee.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, sometimes that dunk he tried to pull off OG, right? Like there's moments where he looks like himself, but it's not that consistency like we saw from, like, one of the greatest things about the Celtics run last year, one of their biggest strengths was Jalen's athleticism, where both defensively and offensively getting downhill. Drew's hamstring, that could go out at any time. Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but he's playing big minutes. So the injury component to this is the biggest thing, because I think about Porzingis, and the reason he's here is because of the 2023 Miami series, where they were switching everything and the Celtics couldn't beat switches. That's quite frankly why I thought he'd have a huge series against Orlando, but he was unable to do so.
Me too.
Yeah, and right now, that curveball, that off-speed pitch would be Porzingis, right? Where it's like, all right, switch smaller defenders onto him. He should be able to burn him. But right now, based on where he's at health-wise, I just don't expect it.
Yeah, and he had that little flash where he hits a shot inside to put back and one, gets the 3 after passing out of there, and he finally passed out. And I think that's something he's just going to have to do more often, have to collapse in the defense if he's going to be able to play here. And then he gets out to the three-point line, hits a three with zero rhythm, which was cool to see. But you go back and look at those minutes, he's missing rebounds. He missed that tip in with no one even near him, which was a killer up 20. And he just doesn't look like he's in a rhythm out there. And more, what concerns me more is that it looks like he's just revving himself up to even play. Like, he's doing the high knees and just, trying to get himself going. Guys are hugging him and giving him high five. It's just a very bizarre scene last night.
Yeah.
Not only him starting this game off the bench, which was a wrinkle I was kind of expecting, but was still surprised to see to some degree, just because I didn't imagine he'd be this limited. And then he plays 5 minutes in the first half and then a little bit of a longer stint in the second half that wasn't great. And then they go away from him down the stretch. So again, can you get 20, 25 minutes from him that are a little better than this? I feel much better about the series because I think they need him. But if it's going to be 13 and it looks like this, you should probably just go to Luke and you should probably go away from Porzingis. As frustrating as it is for him and them, I just don't know what to say about this because I don't know what it is. I don't know why he's limited right now. I don't know why it popped up again after months where he looked fine. I mean, he hit 8 threes at MSG in early April.
Yeah.
This is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen.
I personally thought that, all right, if he's not good enough to essentially start game 2, don't play him. And I know he had that little stretch there in the second half, but his first stretch, Bobby, as you mentioned the tip in earlier, but his first stretch in the game, it felt like it was just cardio. Like he was, yeah. And there's times too where I feel like, and Tatum's very guilty of this, where they just like try to force it to him. Like it's not like in any sort of a rhythm. They just try to force him the ball. But I felt that they should have, if he's not going to start, I thought he shouldn't start. I said that the other day, but if he's going to give you what he's giving you right now, you may be better off just not playing him. And unfortunately, I hate to say that, but I just don't know what he can contribute right now. And if he can't really contribute, you may be better off hoping you can win 2 games in New York. And then maybe by then he's healthier. It just feels like right now he's not a positive for the team. And like I said, I feel bad for him, but that's just the reality of where they're at.
So how you feeling? I don't think it matters what we say because of the level of confidence we had going into the series, but we'll try again anyway. 2-0. They're going to MSG. They got a couple of days off here, which is nice. Regroup. The practice comments today were encouraging to me because it's stay the game plan, be who we are, don't veer from the identity. I thought they did that a little bit in game 2 and it hurt them. But it's a big haul and they're not healthy, and the Knicks just have so much momentum going home and have played them close in all these games. Like, I know they go down 20, but they're mostly within 10 to 12 in all these games. So I don't feel great about it, but I think the Celtics can push this to a 7 and we'll just see who's available and rolling and good to go at that point.
Yeah, I think that they're going to win game 3. And you mentioned this earlier, I think being on the road actually helps this team. They've been a better road team all season long, and they've won so many big games on the road recently, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, right? We can go back to Milwaukee game 6, Miami in 2022, that game 7 was in Miami, right? Philadelphia game 6, that was in Philadelphia, of course. So they've done this before. It's tough for me to envision them winning 4 out of 5, A, the way they're playing right now, B, specifically the way Tatum's playing right now, and see the health of Porzingis and Jaylen Brown. That's why I have a really difficult time seeing them winning the series, because the other element to this is New York, outside of the fourth quarter, their offense hasn't been great either. Like they could be due for a positive regression in terms of their shooting. Like they've had great shooting stretches, but they haven't been awesome, and they were one of the best offenses in the league. And I still feel like Thibodeau should be given or not that he's on the court, but they should be running more stuff for Towns. Because Towns, when he gets the chance, like he had the 8 straight points, he can dominate these guys in the post.
It's amazing that he's shot 1 3 in this series so far in the game 1. He's got 2, but 1 was a heave. You would think that'd be a win. You would think the way they've limited Brunson would be a win. OG only has 5 in that game last night. The bench isn't doing too much for them. Again, Robinson's not killing you here. There's a lot of stuff going in that direction. I think Grandy actually tweeted that was like the least efficient Knicks offensive game of the season, and you lose it after being up at 20.
Yeah.
And so when you lose a game like that, when you lose a game like game one, where you get the defensive performance you did from Horford, some of Drew's heroics, even some big white plays in this game too, you don't feel great about recovering from that. But I'll lean on one thing, and maybe I'm stupid to do so, but they really have gotten some great looks, like miles of space behind the 3-point line, and guys are just missing those. And if that's what it's going to be, and they're just going to keep missing those, I guess you deserve to lose this series because you don't have anything else that you can go to. But this is who they are. This is what they should continue to lean on. I don't think the Knicks have a great counter if those shots are falling because they can't get up the threes themselves. So I do think they can still win this series with a shooting turnaround. It's tough to hope and pray that that's going to happen. And I guess I'll say this. Even if they get out of this series, you can't feel great about them winning a championship right now with the way that the offense looks and the way that the health is already starting to deteriorate here. But I think they can win this series still. Like the things I felt going into it, I still feel.
Yeah. No, I'm with you from that aspect. Like there is a way they can do it. I have my doubts just considering what we've seen so far as it pertains to health. Like, and I would also say this, like they could be right in terms of, hey, eventually the shooting's going to turn around, even though they haven't shot the ball. Well, you mentioned they've hit 25 of 100 threes. But I also think, Bobby, there's going to be another game like we just watched where, okay, even if you convince me that in New York, the Celtics 3-point shooting is going to look like it has all season long, and they come back to the Garden and the series is tied at 2. There's going to be a game, whether it's 5, 6, or 7, that looks like how the Celtics were shooting in games 1 and 2. And in that game, can they figure out a way to win? Or is it going to be similar to what we've seen where, hey, let's run the shot clock down to 9, 10 seconds and then try to do something and miss a 3, and then we're in our heads and we can't stop the Knicks on the other end. That's my concern is, can you win that type of game? Because the answer through 2 games has been no, because I do think it's going to happen again at some point based on the recent history we have, which is in 5 of your 7 playoff games, you've shot south of 34% from 3.
Certainly fair. And meanwhile, the Thunder won by 43 after their game 1 loss.
Yeah, what the hell were the Nuggets doing? They were almost played until Jokic fouled out. They almost played their starters the whole third quarter. It's like, guys, you're playing every other day. Throw in the white towel. You did what you were supposed to do. You split the series. I don't know why they didn't get the starters off the floor quicker.
I want to see a wrinkle from the Celtics too. Guys aren't playing well. Guys are hurt. What can you get to here that you haven't yet? They just haven't put an imprint enough in terms of adjustments, and the Knicks have made them constantly here and have kept them on their toes. The Celtics, even back to those last 2 plays, you run the same play twice in a row out of the, far side inbounds there, trying to win the game. And I just don't get that. I think Missoula has a lot of room for improvement here. Tatum's the head of the blame pie. Brown hasn't been great either, and Porzingis, everyone's killing him. I don't know what to say about it because I just don't know. It sucks. It's brutal to see in a run that he wanted to be a bigger part of. To have himself in this position is not great. And there's a lot of questions coming up this summer, but we'll get to those if this is the end of the road for them here. I think they're going to have something to say just based off their history here by the end of the series, but it doesn't look great right now. And they will play again on Saturday, 3:30. We'll have some more shows tomorrow, I'm sure, more coverage from New York. I'm heading down. Brian's got coverage over on the Off the Pike podcast over there at the Ringer. I love hopping on there from time to time, and he has a lot of great guests every day talking Sox, which is getting a little spicier over there on that front. Pats, a lot of, hype around what's going on there right now as they're, summer, they get into the summer there and, gear up for the fall. So he always does a good job over there. So subscribe to that podcast and check him out. Always good talking to you here, Brian.
Bobby, appreciate the time, man. Safe travels to New York. Hopefully the next time you're back in Massachusetts, it'll be 2-2.
All right. That's it for us today, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way. Let's
Yeah.
fly out over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke